The Reebok Forever Floatride GROW. After 250 miles, midsole, muddy, bomb-proof and plant-based. This is my full review.
More puddles. It's okay, I'm vegan.
Hello and welcome back to The Vegan Runner. Today's run, 11.25 miles of country lanes, daffodils and lots of mud. This was a 90-minute endurance run as part of the 80-20 half marathon plan that I'm following. You can follow my progress with the 80-20 training method by watching the videos in the 80-20 playlist. Right, my last run took these shoes up to the 250 mile mark, so this is my full review of Reebok's Forever Floatride GROW, a shoe that uses innovative plant-based materials to make up over half of the shoe. In this review I'll share my thoughts on each part of the shoe, from the upper to the outsole and everything else in between. I've added chapters to the video, so if you like you can skip to the parts that interest you the most. Okay, so in my initial first impressions review I was really happy with how the shoe was performing overall. I like the bounce in the midsole, the plant-based components were really interesting, and the fit and the comfort of the shoe was really great. The heel to toe drop at 9mm was just perfect for me, and being a neutral shoe it had a decent amount of lateral kind of flexion and twist, and it was pretty light for a daily trainer. Now that I've spent a lot of time in the shoe, has any of this changed? Let's start with the upper. It's made from eucalyptus bark and has a kind of knitted texture to it. Unlike other knitted uppers I've tried, it's not stretchy, it's relatively stiff, but it has been pretty breathable, and I'd score it highly in the comfort category. The lockdown has been really good. I haven't needed to adjust it too much as the miles built up. There is a weird bit of kind of like bunching going on with some of the lower eyelets, and you can see that the once flat laces are now kind of twisted and distorted in places, but this hasn't changed the fit and the ride of the shoe that much overall, and I suspect there won't be any issues with it over the lifetime of the shoe. My biggest issue with the upper, I suspect you've already can probably tell what it's going to be, but it's the way the shoe has an ability to cling onto mud like an absolute limpet. Brand new, this shoe looks lovely. An off-white, very light tan colour with brown accents on the tongue and the sides, and the Reebok decals look great. and it's got this kind of like nice Reebok labelling on the cushion tongue. But after a handful of runs, all on the road, they turn this beautiful shade of, well, you can find the right adjective, but they look pretty awful right now. I bought a white pair of shoes. I can live with them getting dirty, but for those of you who like to keep new shoes looking new for as long as possible, you're going to find that really hard with these. Even after a scrub and a rinse, mud seems to sort of stain the upper pretty well, so be prepared to say goodbye to that new shoe glow pretty early on. Hopefully Reebok will continue the Grow series, and the next iteration will have at least one other colorway, maybe a darker option that is a bit more subtle and doesn't show up the mud quite so much. But another slight downside to this shoe's ability to hoover up mud is that each shoe has picked up about 10 grams of mud over the last 250 miles, so it's a good thing that they were nice and light to begin with. In my size they were 249 grams when they were new, so 260 now. Those extra 10 grams per shoe, 10-11 grams per shoe, they're not a deal breaker. I certainly haven't noticed it really out there on the roads, but I don't know, a slightly different finish on the upper, maybe something that's a little slicker, slightly more repellent would do the trick. In the upper's defense though, it has been bomb-proof. The only signs of wear I can see are on the little plastic decals, so you can see some bits of wear and sort of cracking on those Reebok decals, but that's totally acceptable for a shoe that's done this many miles, and I've been putting it through some pretty tough conditions. Lots of grit, lots of debris on our roads here. Training through December and January, I thought I was going to start growing webbed feet. It was that wet, so the upper has spent a lot of time in wet conditions, and all the gripes about the colourway go out of the window when I think about how quickly it drained with water. There was no issue with the shoe holding on to water or water sort of sitting inside the shoe. After about 30 seconds or so, the excess water's kind of drained out and disappeared. That said, I do think this kind of knitted material does hold on to a fair bit of water. They are noticeably heavier once you've gone through a puddle. It doesn't last for the duration of your run, but it is something to be aware of if you don't like that heavy feeling of wet shoes on your feet. The tongue sits well and comfortable against the foot. It looks plusher than it really is, and it feels pretty thin actually when you give it a bit of a squish. But I really like the way it sat against my foot. There was absolutely no issue with any kind of slippage. And it's similar with the heel cup as well. A nice snug fit, supports your heel, supports your ankle. Absolutely no issues there. Right, now onto the midsole. This is Reebok's Floatride foam with a difference. It's made from castor bean oil, which Reebok claim provides good cushioning and comfort. This was part of the shoe that changed dramatically over the course of these last few months. In my first impressions review, I was really happy with the shoe out of the box, and for the first few runs, the midsole felt well cushioned but responsive. It had a great bounce and energy to it. It felt brilliant for hill rep and speed work sessions, as well as for recovery and long runs. It really was like a great all-rounder shoe. At around the 50 to 60 mile mark though, something just changed. It lost a fair bit of its bounce and responsiveness. It was less comfortable at the high end of speed work sessions, but it still felt great for long runs and easy days. It sort of merged and evolved into this kind of really comfortable, kind of gave you that old shoe feeling that you've had for years, but you can't stop wearing because they fit so well and they feel really good. I wore them for today's long run and they still feel really comfortable at the 250 mile mark, but they're just not quite responsive enough for speed work anymore. So if you're looking for a speed work shoe, I'd probably look at something else, but for logging those long run miles and easy days, these shoes have been great for me. I'm not sure why the foam changed so much. It may have been a combination of the very cold weather mixed with some really wet conditions. Perhaps the foam was just saturated and it lost whatever originally gave that shoe its sort of initial spring. But in terms of wear, the foam looks like new. I can't see any major kind of creases or missing chunks of foam. Once again, a plant-based material has proved itself in terms of longevity, with both the midsole and upper standing up really well to the pounding of 250 miles. The EVA foam insoles as well, which are made from algae, They're still holding up really well. They pretty quickly molded to my foot and they've been really comfortable. No hot spots, no blisters. And yeah, they still feel as good as the day I took them out of the box, really. Another win for a plant-based material. On to the outsole then, which is made from natural rubber. There is some noticeable wear, most significantly in the forefoot and heel areas, but nothing that causes me any concern. It's about what I'd expect after this mileage, and I'm sure it'd happily go on for another 250 miles. The grip has been excellent in these shoes. The tread pattern has a pretty low profile with cutouts and exposed foam, which has probably helped to keep the shoe nice and light. As already mentioned once or twice, I've been running in some pretty wet conditions and they've kept me upright and confident that I wasn't going to slip when pushing the pace on some steep descents. The only times I have slipped really have been on ice or very slippery kind of surface mud. Both surfaces I wouldn't really expect any road shoe to deal with very well, so no issues there. The sound and feel of the natural rubber on tarmac is pretty soft. No issues with excess noise or strange kind of like squeaking going on. Overall, I like the outsole. It's a simple and thoughtful design, and it gets the job done, no worries. Overall, every mile in this shoe has been a joy. It's been peppy and springy from the outset, then settling down like an old pair of comfortable and well-worn slippers that you'd be happy to run 15 miles in. So if you're looking for a shoe to clock up your daily miles, a shoe that will feel comfortable for easy days, long runs, and anything up to about tempo pace, I really think you'll be happy with the Reebok Forever Floatride GROW. Despite the easily stained upper, it has performed really well. It's comfortable, it's fairly breathable, the midsole has plenty of cushion and bounce, and the outsole sticks to the road and wet surfaces for a slip-free run. The build quality is very sound with hardly any signs of wear on all of the components. I'd happily pick up another pair of these shoes, and they're easily my favourite daily training shoes since the Nike Pegasus 35. I think it's an innovative and great step forward for introducing more plant-based materials into shoes. Perhaps this shoe goes some way to dispelling that kind of maybe concern from some consumers that natural materials won't hold up compared to their synthetic counterparts, but for me, I think this shoe has proved that they are more than worthy of their man-made counterparts, with little sign of wear and no sign of like an imminent breakdown or failure. They're competitively priced at the moment. They're coming in at around about £70, £65–70. I've seen promotions and discount codes available around the web, and that can take the price down to around about £50 to £60, which frankly is an absolute bargain for a pair of shoes that you can throw a load of miles at. I'm really happy that I bought this shoe, and I'm looking forward to seeing the next iteration, and hopefully Reebok will introduce more plant-based materials to their other running shoes. Right, that's my full review. I hope I haven't missed anything, but if you think I have, pop a question down below and I'd be more than happy to answer you down in the comments. Also, I'll soon be on the lookout for my next daily trainer. Which shoes would you recommend that you think I should try and review? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and until the next one, be the best you.